This is Angelica Marie, and you're tuned into Ain't No Filter. Yes, I said ain't no filter. This podcast ain't for the lighthearted. Ain't no sugarcoating. Ain't no tiptoeing. Ain't no dog filter, and ain't no flower filter. Ain't no filter. Straight shoot from the hip on every single episode of Ain't No Filter. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Ain't No Filter. And today y'all go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Ladies first.
You have Briana Harris. Do I need to give like a who I am, what I do type of thing?
Yes, girl, go ahead, plug yourself. Let them know.
I don't really have a plug. My name is Briana Harris. I am a social worker, a recent graduate.
Woo woo.
Have my MSW.
Ow.
Little passions, work Black youth, Black families, everything Black.
Blickety black.
Okay. All right, cool. Hi everybody. My name is Carl CJ Greer. I also just recently graduated from the University of Michigan in their social work program and education leadership and policy program. I'll be attending the University of Wisconsin-Madison in the fall for my PhD in education leadership and policy analysis. And I'm interested in community work and how we can utilize the community to mitigate deficits that we see in our education system. So I'm very happy to be here today and just to bring that type of expertise.
Y'all so Black and educated. We can't afford like sound effects over here. So, that's why I was ad-libbing while y'all was talking. But, shout outs to the graduates. But, we're going to be chill and calm and stuff. We're going to, get into some real stuff, though. But I want to ask y'all, like, how has y'all quarantine been going? Like, what have y'all been doing?
Child, I thought I wasn't going to graduate. For me, it definitely was an adjustment because everything really started to hit the fan for like during spring break. And then it's like, oh, you got an extra week. And I was like, all right, bet. Then it was like, oh, we're doing online classes. Then it was like, oh, life happened. So it was just a lot going on literally at one time. I think now that school is finished, I'm starting to like get a routine and accept that this is the
Girl, that's interesting. I think we've all had that thought. Am I going to graduate? And you graduated during a pandemic, not an epidemic, but a pandemic. I say amen. And how about you, Carl? How's it been for you for quarantine?
I definitely echo those sentiments. I came back from spring break and literally it was like the week after is when like everything got shut down. And I was just talking to my professor like that. And I was joking around. I was like, I'm not going to see you next week. And then, he emailed me and he was like, it looks like you were right. So it's just been kind of like that, trying to stay active and focused and just, staying like positive and happy because, it's really easy to get bored around these times. So.
No, I tell you, like being able to stay like mentally sane, cause child quarantine, I ain't gonna lie, quarantine been whooping my butt. Like it's been whooping it. Like name it, it didn't happen. Like it didn't happen. And I mean, I look on social media and it's nothing better on social media. How have y'all been doing with like looking on social media? Have y'all been on there? Like, how do y'all?
Well, I've definitely been on social media. I'm a huge social media type of person. I absolutely love Twitter. It's like the quickest way to get the coolest and flyest news. I kind of
news.
the flyest news. I kind of monitor what I take in and stuff because it's a lot of messed up things going on right now, and you don't necessarily need to have all that coming into you all at once because that can like affect you. So I like to take breaks from it just to make sure I'm not overwhelmed. But like, yeah, social media is my go-to right now, actually.
What about you, Brianna? Brianna? Ah, Lord. Hello? Hello, caller. Are you there? Carl, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Dang, where's Brianna?
It says she's connected.
I know it still says she's connected too, but I don't hear her. Dang, this is so interesting. Oh, this is going to be an interesting ride. Brianna. Brianna? Dang, I don't even know if it's going to allow me to try to text her. Um, damn. Anyway, what do they do? I guess they just keep the show going, right? I know you said there was like a lot of I know you said there was like a lot of different things that you were on social media seeing. Like it was a situation that occurred with the murder of Ahmad. I don't want to say his last name because I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I don't want to incorrectly pronounce it. um how did you feel in regards to like seeing so much headway and it was just like related to social media?
So, com- compared to a lot of things that I saw, I really wasn't as like in tune to like what actually transpired until I just like kept seeing it all over Twitter and like Facebook and stuff. And I think it's absolutely terrible. It's terrible that that young man's life was taken in almost to the same foot of terribleness is just how it was just going to be swept underneath the rug. That's really, really scary, uh, especially being in a position as like a black man and things like that going on and throughout America. If that video hadn't really came to surface, they just would have continued in their everyday life like they were doing, and they wouldn't have been held accountable for the terrible actions that they had done. And I'm glad that we were able to see social media used in like a positive manner to bring, will begin the process of bringing some type of justice to this injustice that we see. Because, you know, in the past, people got away with stuff like this. So I'm just glad that we're actually able to see that power behind it and that those killers are actually being held accountable in some way, shape, or form. And they're beginning that process.
All right, I feel you. Hey, okay, hey, things happen on Ain't No Filter, and that's just what it is. Brianna, are you back?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. I mean, technology just gonna do stuff. While you were gone, we started, discussing the situation with Amai and the usage of social media, and them kind of getting more of a headway and getting it out. How do you feel in regards to like social media and them taking action, I guess, on social media?
I feel like it's like a double-edged sword, right? Because it's like it's great that, well, I don't even want to say great because it should have never happened in the first place, but I think like it's
Okay.
cool that social media was used as a tool to bring awareness to what happened to this young man. However, I'm just really cautious. Like me personally, I didn't watch the video, and I'm just really cautious of that video just lingering around here for basically anyone with access to socials to see it or internet to see it, because that is re-traumatizing for some people. It is traumatizing for some people, and the fact that essentially a lynching of a black body is just floating around on the internet. it's I don't like that thought. I don't like that idea, and it just infuriates me that we literally have to have a video to get justice. And I prayerfully he gets justice, but just the thought that, oh my god, a body of a black male or woman is floating around on the internet, um just doesn't sit well with me.
I can definitely like agree with what you're saying, Brianna, because for me, I'm very like I'm honestly pissed at social media because I don't feel like they do a good enough job in controlling the content that is placed on the internet. Because I did watch the video and I didn't realize what I was watching at first
Mm-hmm.
because the person who posted it, there was like it was no title, there was nothing, there was no sensitive content, there was no graphic alert. So for me, I was like, yo, like I can't. Once I realized what I was watching, I was like, I'm pissed. I'm pissed at the person who posted it and didn't put a disclaimer. I'm pissed that it was able to get that far on social media and be on there for so long without the sensitive like warning, because I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person who's seen it. And it's like I don't know how, I know y'all felt a little, you guys feel a little different in regards to social media, but I kind of hate social media. I kind of sometimes feel like social media, when it comes down to situations like this, I kind of feel like social media outrage is fake. I don't feel like it's really a protest.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I definitely agree with that, and I also think that I feel like what social media does, it really desensitizes people, and because like in this era of social media, we've seen this starting with um Trayvon Martin, and we go back all the way back to when that incident occurred, and it's like people were getting on social media and talking about it, and I feel like Trayvon Martin was like the start of black lynchings in a social media era, essentially, and so it has
Mhm.
led people to really, um, voice their concerns on social media, but then leave social media and like live their everyday lives, and it really takes away the emotion and the empathy and the compassion away from it, because you get so used to seeing these videos and hearing about this, and people get on social media and you're riled up for 1 second, and then after you get your frustrations out, or after there's a new trending topic on socials, it's like it's almost forgotten. And I don't feel like the work, I'm not even going to say I don't feel like the work, because I know that there's people out here doing the work, but I just feel like it gives a platform for people who, if we didn't have social media, would they really be out here doing the work still?
Hmm.
Ooh, that's heavy, child. Cause I definitely I can agree to those sentiments. Sometimes I feel like people just do it to say like, okay, let me do this because if I don't post it, I'ma look like I don't care.
Hmm.
And especially if people are famous, like, of course I don't know that man. I don't know Justin Timberlake. I don't know that man, but you know some comments, and I'm not gonna say like who the person was because I'm not going to be able to quote them directly,
Hmm.
but something that they posted, to the extent of a lot of white
I know
celebrities
what you're talking about.
will post, yeah, will post something to show that they support black people when these things kind of happen, but they'll turn their comments off
Hmm.
so that those white supremacists can't get in there and say anything. There can't be any real dialogue. And I guess that's why I kind of feel like it's fake.
Hmm.
And why with the justice system or lack of justice system, why does somebody going viral, or why does a person being murdered have to go viral for there to be some traction in the case? Because I get it. Certain stuff might take a little while in the court system, but it happened in February. We talking about May. Like
Hmm.
I don't think it took that long.
Hmm.
I just feel like if that would have been two black men killing a white person, it would have been wrapped up, handcuffed on the scene. Like we figure out who did it later. No videotape or nothing.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Oh, for sure.
Exactly.
But with the okay, so the thing is, with the newfound social media, we go back to people even before social media. People say that protests don't work. Do you feel like social media is replacing protests, is being able to be more impactful, or do riots really do more?
Oh man, that is a complex question, Angelica. Um, I don't feel personally that social media has replaced activism. but that's definitely a very good tool that can be used if it's used in the correct manner. Um, Going back to the Trayvon Martin case and the Black Lives Matter movement, that really blew up heavy and big, and we were able to see so many different perspectives just from folks that were on like ground zero at Ferguson because of social media. And to like go back like 15, 20 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to have that same type of awareness of things going on. And you know, I think social media, like you guys touched on earlier, it can be good and it can be really bad because you are exposed to a lot of things, but it can be a tool that can be utilized in addressing those things. Because for me personally, I don't think anything beats that on the ground activism, holding a community rally, bringing folks together and stuff. Because you really see change by bringing people together, and the best way to do that is through face to face interactions. And so,
And I agree. I think that when it comes to social media and protesting and like where we are now with it, I feel like, I hear people say like protesting doesn't do anything, like XYZ, and I disagree with that because it's like they were protesting in the 60s and people are like, well, we're not in the 60s no more. You're right, we're not. But I still think that the act of bringing people together, the act of rallying behind something, it does still light fires up people's behinds to an extent. You're going to have racist people across the board who's not going to care whether you protest, whether you work with them personally and you're trying to make change. If they're not willing to budge, they're not going to. I feel like what protest
Mm.
does, it disrupts people from their everyday life for a second. It disrupts, them being able to go get a coffee or a latte or walk their dog or something like that. It disrupts their life because our lives are constantly disrupted. So I feel like I'm not going to sit here and say that protesting doesn't do anything. I think that we need to protest and we need to educate. We need to protest and we need to love our black kids, love on our black children. We need to protest and we
Mm.
need to be in our community. So it's like if you're talking about protest as a standalone, no, nothing should be standalone. Everything should be done in tandem. We need to have different
Mm.
people doing different things in different areas, whether you can be an engineer and still make change. You know what I'm saying? You can be a doctor making change. But to just say that
Okay.
like protesting is not really effective, I don't fully agree with that. And as far as social media is concerned, I feel like again, anything that we have, it can be used good or bad. I feel like the thing with social media is for some reason, like we just live in a society where I think that negative, like we people feed off of negativity, we feed off of like drama. And so if that's not being promoted consistently, like if it's just we're always talking about activism and education and things like that, people get bored with that. And so that's why we'll have a spurt of activism on social media, quote unquote. But then it dies down soon because people are like, all right, I'm tired of this. Where the action at? Where the drama at? I think that we as individuals need to do a better job of like holding each other accountable um, as far as that. But I will also plug and say, I don't feel like it's necessarily the job of Black people. Like, these white people need to be doing it. The allies, like, this is who I'm talking to. If you're white and you're listening, this is your job. This is your job. Like, it's on you, Justin Timberlake. It is on you guys to do this work, honestly, because it's like we can't keep sacrificing ourselves and our bodies and our mental health to make this change, right? They created the system, they need to fix the system.
Mm. That's the one right there. They created the system. They need to fix the system. I like everything about what you guys are saying. I agree because I look at it like this: if they're willing to execute us and it be on camera and they can get off for it, I don't think they listening to us. I do feel like we do have to have the white allies, the true allies, not the ones who are just for rights when it's only concerning white people and everything. I need
Hmm.
them to be for the whole. And you know what I'm talking about because
Hmm.
there's a lot of feminists. I ain't. That's a whole nother conversation. But it's a whole lot of feminists out here And it's like, but why does it have to always, why, it's like, why don't you listen to us? Why does it have to be a white person that steps in for you to really listen? Or why do we have to take it to the point where we riot? Because I look at it like this: being from Milwaukee, and it was like what, 2016,
Mm-hmm.
black man was murdered. Yeah, Seville. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
it's
sorry, y'all.
Seville.
I'm bad
It's
with
Seville.
names.
Seville.
All right, I'm bad with names. Rest in power. And you can look up the case. People can say this and that about it, about the situation, but he was murdered. He was murdered by a police officer who happened to be black, and that
Mm-hmm.
goes back to this whole power struggle with
Mm-hmm.
police officers. Period. Not even including the race situation. Milwaukee rioted. They burned down a couple different things. They burned down a gas station where that gas station owner had been accused of supposedly pulling out a gun on a couple black kids. So they burned that gas station down. They burned a bank down, and then they burned a beauty supply store and like a couple other things. But I feel like, I know some people be like, what are you talking about? But with that riot, that brought something called Sherman Phoenix in Milwaukee. It's a whole bunch of black owned businesses in this building now. That's what happened after the riot. Like, that bank got burned down and then got replaced with Sherman Phoenix. So I feel like, I know, like, I don't believe in doing that, because easily people could have been hurt, and people were hurt during those riots. But it's like something fresh and new came.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it's also like it just gets to a point of like, when you realize that your body is not valued in this country, and you're consistently seeing injustices in your community or on the news, it just gets to a point of like you can't take it anymore. Like, you're literally tired. You're physically tired, you're mentally tired, you're emotionally tired. Um shoot, spiritually tired of everything that's going on. So it's like, okay, sure, should we riot? I don't know. That's up for debate. But you try telling someone who, when they turn on the news, or they homies getting killed, or they family members getting killed because they're black, or because of some prejudice or stereotypes, how will you react when it's in our history type of thing? So that's why it's like when people riot, I'm just not into consistently policing black people about what they should and should not do, when it comes to how they handle injustices in America.
And it's a part of this interview that Tupac did. And he speaks on that too, about, like you said, constantly seeing stuff, constantly seeing it. He just speaks like, you ask nicely the first time, then eventually, it's more anger in your voice. And he just speaks about like how he feels like, as black people, we were asking nicely with the Black Panthers, like, how long do y'all expect us to ask for basic humane rights before we go crazy?
Hmm.
Right.
And like you said, like, what are you gonna do? And I feel like, for me, like, I felt like I was always a person who spoke up. But for people who are listening who may not know me personally, my uncle was murdered. He was murdered last year. He was murdered by his racist white neighbor. um and at that moment, like, of course, I'm gonna keep it short, but just because a lot of different things in that, with that whole situation, with the murder of my uncle. And the reason why I always try to make sure I say murder, because I want people to feel it and hear that word. Because when people say, oh, passed away, no, I need you to understand that my uncle was murdered. That is serious. That is a serious situation. My uncle was murdered by his neighbor while holding my little cousin's hand. You can look at the case. You can look at the case online, because I don't want to get like too into it, because I get emotional. But the situation with it for me was how they acted, how the police acted towards the situation. Even now, if you like, Mark Jabin is his name. Well, I think he's on house arrest, and he did some violent acts after the murder of my uncle. It's just kind of things like, you keep getting slapped in the face, and like you said, what are you gonna do when it happens to your loved one? And I feel like it's so hard to decipher that because knowing, like me going through the emotions, I didn't know what to do. I felt guilty that I wasn't around my family. I felt so far and like separated. I felt like really like I always feel guilty. Like I feel guilty. Like there what do? You're trying to grieve and you're trying to protest. You're trying to stand up. You're letting other people in your life trying to tell people, "Oh, this happened, can you sign this campaign? Can you call this number? Can you share this?" Like you trying to grieve and it's like, dang, why can't it just be a human right for him to have some type of quote unquote justice? And I don't even know if I believe in the word justice. Do y'all really believe in the word justice? Like, what does that even mean? What does that even look like?
Not here in America for Black people. I mean, historically, we've just been injustice our literal whole entire existence here. Whenever something occurs for us, the process is specifically for us. It always looks different compared to any other group of people here in America. It's tiring. It's frustrating. Somebody's life was taken at the end of the day. How was the other person not chastised for that? It's just really frustrating. It's just so tiring. So,
Yeah, I don't, as far as justice for Black people in America, I feel like it's very, justice would be the abolition of racism. Like, honestly, like that would be
Mm.
justice because if a white person, white cop, whatever, murders a Black person and say they get sentenced to life, okay, justice was served, right? But
mm-hmm.
it's still happening in a racist system. It's still systematic
Mm.
things that are going on. And even the treatment, we don't even know what that treatment of that, like, from a media side of things or from a social side of things, how would that white individual be viewed if the roles were reversed? You see what I'm saying? So it's like justice was served in like a judicial term, but we still live in an oppressive system. And until that oppressive system is abolished and there's equity, um, I can't fully say that, you know, justice exists, but I also want to be sensitive to individuals like yourself who have experienced this because to them that may be justice and they may be happy with that. And so for them, that's their justice. And I want to be sensitive to that because if that's how they view justice, they have every right to view it that way. But I
Mm-hmm.
just know for me personally, until, you know, racism is abolished, that's when we'll see justice and liberation, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I for me, and like you make the making a point of being like sensitive to my experience, everybody else's experiences. A lot of times I just feel like justice doesn't exist because for me I really feel like justice would have been it's never happened.
Hmm.
you know and my uncle, he didn't go viral. He didn't have a hashtag that went viral. So it's like I look at it like that. My uncle didn't go viral. How many other people did not go viral? How many other people we do not know about? How many other people who don't have a video camera? How many other families who just didn't have no fight? Like
Hmm.
where do we go with that? Like, is there really an idea of hope, a change? Because we got to remember, like, I think people forget this is the same America that slavery was legal.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people forget that part. We are not that far from slavery. Like, we are not like my mama don't care at this point. Like, my mom was alive when Martin Luther King was alive. That's not that. What does that tell you? Like, we're not that far.
Hmm.
We are not that far removed from these so-called horrible times when it still feel the same.
Hmm.
Right.
100%.
And I don't know, like I look at families and I'll be like, I think a lot of people stronger than me in that case because even looking at just so like how certain families are able to respond back to the murder of their loved ones, even the case with Bohem John with
Hmm.
Mm.
his
In Texas.
brother.
Yeah. Whew.
I couldn't have did that. I don't know what type of guy he prayed to, but I wouldn't have did that. I couldn't have did that.
Eh,
He sent him all types of strength.
yeah, and I think like that's the other thing because I know he got a lot of backlash for that, and like black people are really upset. Like, why are we always doing this? And we're always giving a pat on the back for white people. And again, I'm not the one to sit here because I know he said that he's Christian, he's spiritual, and one of the things is like forgiveness. So it's like, for him and his family, holding on to that could have just caused much more pain than just letting go and forgiving. Like if they have peace with that,
Mm-hmm.
they have peace with that. And it's like I get it. I'm not gonna say that that would be me in that moment. I mean, for me personally, it would have been too soon. But I get the act of forgiveness, period. But I'm also just not into telling like someone whose child or sibling or family member who was just murdered, like you tripping for doing that. Like that's just not me.
Oh, Carl. Oh, I thought you was about to say something, Carl. I mean, I definitely, I don't know if I put something on social media in regards to that, but I know initially I was kind of like, I don't know.
Hmm.
But when you like the sentiments that you're saying, like you have to respect it. Like you said, his faith allowed him to forget. He might feel like he couldn't hold, like you already grieving a person,
Hmm.
so for him to hold on to even more anger is like, why you gonna live a really like your life, you holding on, anybody who holds on to anger should know that it's a burden, it's a dark cloud
Hmm.
that stays above you. So it's like if you can let it go, let it
Mm-hmm.
go. And I pride him on that. I just don't know if I'm there.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a process. That's why I was like it was soon in my eyes, in Brianna's eyes. But that's
Uh,
not for me to like, you know, judge because it takes a little
to
time for me
yeah.
over here to forget, period. So
Okay. Be like, I remember when so and so in the third
yeah,
grade.
be like, well, I'm over it now, but
Child, I ain't
yeah.
forget.
So yeah, I definitely get that.
We constantly kind of hear like even with these narratives we hear a lot of times like, oh, the person who murders was usually white, say they fear for their life, or they were scared. Do y'all really think in 2020 that white people are scared of us? Do y'all think they scared of us?
I
Uh,
think that their minds tell them that they're scared of
yeah.
like their subconscious, but deep down, like I honestly think it's just ingrained in society and their DNA and other things to where it's like, yes, it's an irrational fear. That was the word I was looking for. I think it's an irrational fear.
Hmm.
Mm.
Well, I think that really depends on who the person is. A lot of people fear things that they aren't familiar with, and a lot of white people don't come in contact with black people. They come in contact with our culture because we run the culture, but they don't like
Hey.
have conversations with black people or hang around with black people. And I think that lack of interactions leads to a lot of assumptions. And out of those assumptions, we see a lot of dangerous transgressions happen against us because a lot of white people have the assumption, and this is where you get those ideas like we're all the same, the colorblind theory, like race doesn't matter and all that stuff, because a lot of white folks have that perspective because they've grown up around the same group of people their whole entire life, and that's just the way it is. So when they meet somebody that's new, it's like, oh well, they might just be like me. But there are just inherently differences between us and white folks, and we've experienced things and we go through life differently because like a multitude of different systems and stuff that are like rooted in racism that we have to deal with and stuff. And those assumptions can lead to things like fear and not knowing how to navigate situations, and that doesn't justify terrible actions brought against us. But there definitely should be a space for greater dialogue for white folks to learn, to do better, act better. That necessarily doesn't have to be placed on us for that burden, but there has to be some type of like, in my eyes, some type of like teaching process of like white folks coming forward and like asking for that knowledge and not going off of like inherent biases or like assumptions and things, because bad things happen when you have assumptions most of the time. So
Mm-hmm. Carl, you made that statement in regards to like you made the statement in regards to white people, not being per se around black people. Do you, and this goes for the both of you, do you guys have white friends? Do you guys honestly have white friends?
yes, I have white friends that are down for the cause, that go hard for any folks, not just black folks, but the LGBT community, um, folks who are here navigating like the Trump administration, etc. But I think to have people that don't necessarily come from the same background as you or look like you, who are genuinely your friends, like you got to be real, you got to be raw, and you got to be able to evaluate, are they genuinely my friend? And you can only gauge that by actions, because a lot of people are really good at talking, but actions speak way louder than words. So yeah.
So they'll invite you to your house. They would invite you to their house, white friends, like real white friends, like
Yeah,
real
like
friends.
real friends. Like I done been to a potato party. I done don't ask me about it. Yeah,
I
don't
don't know
ask
what
me.
that is.
I done been to a potato party. I done seen dogs have dog cupcakes and the whole shebang.
Yeah, I don't know what you just said. Potato parties, dog cupcakes.
Mm,
Sounds like a party.
yeah, that,
Brianna, Brianna, do you have white friends?
What do you mean by friend? Like,
How?
like are they coming over my home, my house?
Well, I mean, are they coming over your house? Do you know that there's somebody you could talk to? I mean, I guess in your mindset of how you define friend, like, are they a friend?
Okay, in that sense, no, I do not. In the sense of do I have associates? Sure. I just went through a program and I would sometimes be the only African American black person in the
whew,
room.
man.
So, from that space, and I'm gonna just be real clear, it wasn't a lot of us. And by us, black people, it wasn't a lot of us in the program. So from there, I like made friends with not a lot of them. Well, I don't even want to say friends, but I became cool and like built like a professional relationship. Let me use that word. I feel like I've built a professional relationship with maybe one person. So does that answer your question?
No, it does. I just feel like I'm always curious because you hear so many people who say they have white friends, or you hear so many cases where a white person may say, "Oh, I have a black friend." And I'm gonna just be honest with you. At 25, 25, you can call me. I don't have no white friends. And if you white and we friends, my bad, I do not know. Cause how I measure it, I don't have no white friends.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of people be like, well, you went to a HBCU, but I also went to a PWI for my master's. I still don't really, I wouldn't consider anybody my friend. And even looking back on high school, I played sports with white girls. I don't think we were friends. They didn't invite me to their house. They didn't invite me to mall with them. We ain't go get ice cream. We ain't do nothing together. We played basketball and that was it. We weren't friends. And the closest thing that I had to a person who was like, people gonna, listen. Everybody listen with their ears for the people when they play this episode. The closest encounter, I had a friend who is technically, I guess she considered herself mixed. She was white and Mexican. So that was the closest person I had who was like white that I'm friends
Mm-hmm.
with, and it was definitely an experience because even with her, um it was certain things she didn't understand or didn't realize what was going on, because I'll never forget it. we went to go see Fruitvale Station, which is based around Oscar Grant's
Mm-hmm.
final moments before he was
Mm-hmm.
murdered. And at that time, I don't know if I was just like numb because I had known the story already. But I remember we walked out the movie theater and she was crying and she was like, I didn't know like this was the situations. And I'm like, yeah, this is America. Like before Childish Gambino said this was America. Like,
Yeah. I
do y'all
oh sorry.
go ahead, Brianna? I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I commend you for having like white friends and going to, their functions. It's just not. I just don't have that experience. I'm just gonna leave it there because I don't know. Like, I think for me, it's just so many layers and just in my own experience. Also, it probably depends on like your location because I feel like if you're out in California or New York, I feel like it's so much more diverse than the South. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
everybody
Mm-hmm.
intermingling type of thing. Um, Whereas I went from Atlanta to DC to Richmond, Virginia. So that's a whole nother conversation. So I just think for me, it was just, you know, the type of people that I was around. I wasn't super interested in being their teacher.
That's true. You definitely made a serious point with that because like, coming from Milwaukee, that's super segregated. Like your neighbor gonna be black. I'm shocked if your neighbor is not black. And
Hmm.
then coming to Atlanta, I'm like, I'm black. I'm with the black people.
Right.
Like,
You're home.
exactly. The club black,
Yeah.
the restaurant black
Yeah,
owned.
that is true because Atlanta
Okay.
is a pretty black city and so is DC. I mean, they was gentrifying it like crazy, but historically DC is black.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
Do you? I know. Well, Carl, you really the only person who said they had white friends. Do you feel like it's your job to educate them? And also, when you migrated from Milwaukee to Michigan, did you have white friends
Yeah.
in Milwaukee?
My white friends in Milwaukee.
Okay, let me say this: did you have white friends in Milwaukee before you started college in
Yes, I
Milwaukee?
had white friends in Milwaukee before I started college in Milwaukee. I went to a pretty yeah,
Oh, look at you! You got
yeah, I
white
went to a pretty diverse high school and I was able to meet some amazing people who I still have amazing relationships with. So
That's interesting. I always wonder because like you're a black man, and I mean they can't see you through the episode, but I mean you have locks, and that's something that's always stereotyped into being so many other things.
so I think you that's actually a great point. I think for me being a black man who's lighter toned with dreadlocks, I feel like in some instances I have privilege in navigating certain situations and stuff because I do have more of like an athletic build.
Mm.
So people act a certain way around me because they might think I'm like some type of athlete or something. Um, that's kind of like
They think you play football.
yeah, something like that. Like I go to the University of Michigan and I'll rock like my Michigan jacket and stuff, and like people let me cut in line and stuff. I'm like,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
So
D1 athlete.
yeah, so I feel like I've kind of personally been at times placed in like a bubble and stuff, but when I've been
Mhm.
navigating going to PWI, but I've definitely seen and been aware of like some of the things my peers have gone through in like our social work program and our education program and stuff. Because
Mhm.
it's always constant. Like you always gonna be made mad. They always gonna make you mad. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say I really commend y'all for navigating spaces where y'all were really the only white people. Because
Black
even getting
people.
my master,
black, black.
I'm sorry. Y'all know what I meant. We just said white people so many times that it got in my head, which y'all navigating and being the only black people and still trying to like push for it. So I have to commend y'all. Here go to my sound effects that I can't afford yet. Woo! Woo! So I commend y'all on that for real, because I know that has to be tough. And then even the kind of like programs you guys were in. So
Mhm.
I know I'm gonna double back to this other question. So you feel like it's your job to educate friends
Oh,
or no?
I just feel like my job to educate friends. Um, sheesh. I don't. I don't really believe that it's my job to educate my friends. I mean, I'm gonna be an educator for my career for the long run and stuff, and I would thankfully place the people around me that they're educated in some way, shape, or form, whether they're white, black, Hispanic, etc. Um, I just think those are just things that everybody should think about in terms of like who you are in America and like what your relation is to the greater scheme of things in America. Because who I am as a black man, what that means to America and my history behind that as a black man means something completely different than who I would be if I was like a white woman and my history as a white woman in America. And I believe that everybody should do their own individual work and discovering like their roots, their histories, what that means, and have that kind of shape the future and like the narrative that they want to create. So if you see some like generational things going on and stuff, like be the person that like breaks them and stuff. So thankfully, I feel like I've been surrounded by people who are doing work like that, who are very in tune with like the privileges and things that they have. Like I know I graduated from University of Michigan, so I know that comes with like a certain set of privileges and stuff afforded to me, and a lot of my peers that are black that also graduated from Michigan know that too, and we have like very robust conversations about it. So that's my thoughts on that.
Mm.
Well, I mean, Brandon, you could speak. I know you said you ain't got no white friends, but if you had, if you felt, I don't know,
Mm,
if you had like a
I don't know how much, because it's like I look, you have a story behind this. How much time? I don't want to. I don't want to be super
girl,
chatty.
you got it, you got it, girl.
So when I first entered the program, I was like open minded because I knew what I was walking into. And I was like, okay, I will have more white friends, quote unquote, right? So I was like, I'm going to get in here,
Mm-hmm.
be open minded. And then I started talking to people. And I was like, oh, okay. And I kept talking to people. And I was like, oh, interesting. And so then we started having like individual, like one on one conversations with people about race. Specifically, because a lot of social work programs, it's very white female dominated.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
so that's basically who's in my program. So when I'm like talking about they, I'm talking about white women, basically. Um, and so I just remember in particular, there was one individual, we got pretty cool in the program, and then we would start like, sharing stories, having conversations about race. And then I just started to realize, like, okay, we would have these conversations. And when I would hear them speak about maybe their family or their upbringing. And then I would start to realize when they really came encounter with black people. And then I would start to like notice other little things with how they would engage with me in the program, like when we're in class or when we're outside of the classroom or even when I'm just texting. Like it was just always in certain spaces they were one way, in other spaces they were another way.
Mm.
And I realized that I also became the person that was when we discussed race in the classroom and I was there, me and other people of color would typically be the ones to speak always. Even when we wouldn't say anything, it would just be pure silence. So it became very exhausting. And I think that program taught me, like, now that I'm out of it, is like, it's 20 flipping 20. And then I was there from 2018 till May of this year. And it's like we're just in an era of, one, you're a social worker, so you should already know what you're doing. But two, Google is easily accessible. So I became super frustrated because the thing about it was a lot of them were like quote unquote liberal. So my thoughts on like educating, if I get a white friend, or becoming like talking to white people, it changed vastly. In the beginning, I was like, sure, we'll have these conversations. But now it's like, no, you need to do the work because I ended up becoming the person that they came to when racial things would happen, and they were like, I didn't want to speak. I didn't want to say anything. I didn't know what to say. And in my mind, I'm like, well, why are you coming to me about it? And I wasn't even present. If you want to be that ally, do that work on your own. You take the consequence of you speaking up, because your consequence is not going to look like my consequence. And I also just feel like my positionality as a black woman plays a huge role in it, because I just feel like naturally black women are just so fly. You feel me? Do the sound effect for us. Yeah,
Ow.
there we go. But I just feel like when it comes to being a black woman, and because we do have like we have intersecting identities where gender is, we're oppressed by our gender, right? And then we have racism, and sexism. And so I'm very conscious and I'm very aware of those things. And so I spot the BS easily. And when you not sitting right in my spirit, I just cannot. And so I have yet to just encounter someone who I feel like they're not just looking to me for the answers, who they want to seek out the answers themselves. And if we have those conversations, it's not on me to lead those conversations. So as far as like educating on black things or race things, like, no, I'm not interested in doing that. I'm not completely interested in like having those conversations with white people right now all the time. So like I hate to like say it like that, but it's just, I'm tired. I am tired.
Oh, child. Oh, that was, girl. I felt that. I felt that on a spiritual level. I can feel the being tired. I mean, I had differing experiences than the both of you guys getting my master's, just because it was film.
Hmm.
It was a lot more black people, but if we did a film or brought a script that was, as they call it, a black film, it was always a question of, why do your characters have to be black? Bitch, my characters have to be black because y'all bootleg friends. How about that? Okay. Like, what? Y'all stole Living Single and made friends. So my characters have to be
Hmm.
black because y'all not going to make them black.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I mean, I guess, like you said, I mean, as long as I feel like at the end of the day, if all three of us are making an impact in whatever capacity, whatever level in this world we want to, then, that says a lot as is.
Hmm.
Now, I have to ask this. Do y'all feel like you guys have had healthy relationships or experiences with the police?
Oh boy. Oh man. Um, for myself, I haven't really had that much experience with the police. In my old car, I kind of used to get pulled over randomly, and I'd have to answer a bunch of random questions I thought were unnecessary. But apart from that, I haven't
Hmm.
really interacted with law enforcement like that. So,
Yeah. For me, no, I think I had one like personal experience with cops, and I got pulled over, and it was not positive. I was 16, got pulled over for speeding, but instead of it just being a cop, there were four police officers. Like the
wow,
man called for backup.
wow.
Yes. And
Damn.
so I got pulled by one car. I think it was him and maybe one other guy. And I'm like sitting down, I look in my rear view and I see another cop car pull up. They told me like for me speeding, like I was going to jail because I was going 15 miles. Like it was just a hot mess. And so like my personal experience, no, it wasn't good. And they were all white police officers. And then just the things that I've seen in high school with like seeing the cops handle like my friends, it hasn't been the most favorable. um, so yeah. But I haven't had anything where it was just super like escalated or anything like that.
Well, I'm glad y'all didn't had y'all didn't have better experiences than me. Like, what the hell be going on? That, I mean, I don't know. I will definitely say, like, I'm you know how people love to say that all police aren't bad, and I want people to understand that some people may be good people, but that don't mean they're good at their job.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll speak on the positive. As a kid, I was a part of something called PALS on 24th and Burleigh. And I mean, it was basically like it was owned by like the, I guess, like the Milwaukee Police or the Police Academy or whatever. And like a lot of times your basketball coach was a cop, all this stuff. So I had an experience of at least how police officers were out of their uniform. So I had that kind of like as a positive. But like as far as police officers in their uniform, I've had horrible ass experiences. I will never forget this to this day. I was in fifth grade. I was in fifth grade, and it's an area in like Milwaukee. I guess I don't even know at this point. It's called Whitefish Bay. I was in that area. I was at Whitefish Bay. I was at the high school. My brother played football. And it was cold. And I kept going back and forth from the bleachers to the bathroom. And I never forget it. It was these white girls that kept picking on me, bro. I was in fifth grade. Anybody who know me in person, like I'm tall, I was bigger, like so. Yeah, I probably looked like I wasn't in fifth grade. These white girls who were in high school, because they had their little high school little, when you in high school and you think you in high school and you cute, that stuff on. They kept messing with me. They kept, like calling me names, and I'm like, bro, like I'm in fifth grade, bro. Like, what's going on? So I had left, went back to the bleachers, came back to the bathroom again, and they were still there and they were still picking on me. And I ended up like saying to them, I'm like, yo, like y'all gotta leave me alone, like I'm in fifth grade. Woo woo. So whatever the case may be, I'll end up walking back to the bleachers, and I see them talking to the police. Like I seen it, but I wasn't thinking like, okay, like I'm still in fifth grade, y'all. Like, kid mine. I end up going back to the bathroom, and let me tell you, I'm going back and forth to the bathroom because it was cold. All right, whatever. And also I was a wanderer kid, but don't blame my mama. Like, so I go back to the bathroom this time. Like I did actually have to pee, and I peed and stuff, right? Or I used the restroom, you know. Um, and I can hear like I don't, if you ever been up and close to like a police officer, you can hear that like little walkie things. So I could hear it outside like the bathroom, and then all of a sudden it got closer. Bruh, when I tell you, I know for a fact this had to be fucking illegal. It was men police officers, and I'll never forget this. They came in the bathroom, they cornered me, and they started asking me questions about the little white girls. I know for a fact that has to be illegal, and it was like, bro, I will never forget that to this day. Like, I will never forget that. And I was like, first of all, I'm in fifth grade. Like, I wouldn't even have a high school ID or nothing to show, like to even prove my identity. Like, and it was crazy. Like, I remember walking back to the bleachers, and I don't even know when I told my mom. I did tell my mom about it. Of course, black mamas be mad. But it was just like, if you ever been to Whitefish Bay, don't go to Whitefish Bay if you black. Because I've been racially profiled in Whitefish Bay like 5 million times. But that was my personal experience with the police. Well, I got a couple other experiences, but child, we be here all day.
Yeah, that's
Like,
crazy.
we be here all day.
Sucks.
But I just I just feel like it's a exploitation of power a lot of times. And it's like, I don't know if I even feel like TV shows or films help with people understanding what's going on. Do y'all feel like seeing, television shows or even films, like you have Fruitvale Station, you have When They See Us, you have Detroit, you have Just Mercy, you have so many other films that have came and gone. Do y'all really feel like they're helping?
As far as like bringing awareness.
Yeah, like what do you mean by that?
Bringing a bringing awareness, making it like more of a thing that shouldn't be normalized.
Mm, I feel like, when it comes to the meat, like, I don't know. I just feel like we're at a point in time, like, we all know what's going on. And it's like, at this point, it's a choice. And I think it's always been a choice. I think the thing, like, now that we do have media, sometimes it can feel like, oh my God, like it feels new, especially for the younger generations. But it's like, I don't feel like they're not having conversations like white people or other people of color. Like, I don't feel like those type of conversations are absent. If you knew that slavery existed, if you know a little bit about Jim Crow, I'm then you know that it's been happening. So as far as TV, like, I think that we can continue to like have these shows, but is it gonna change much? No, like I think that's gonna happen on like an individual level first, and then we'll see the change. But I don't. I know, like for an example, when they see us, it definitely educated me because I was not familiar with it at all. But interestingly, people who are from New York, they they like knew, like the black people who I follow on social media or people that's just being retweeted on my timeline who are from New York, they would say like they knew what was going on. Like this has been happening. So I think like it may can reach like a more like widespread audience, but in your like concentrated area or in your community, I feel like we know what's up. And if it's happening in Durham, North Carolina, then I'm sure it's happening in New York, LA, Milwaukee, Texas. It's happening everywhere.
Mm, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I think that man, that's a really good question, but I think it's kind of it's highlighting like issues that we see that have always been there, but in a sense, it is kind of decentralizing. I think that's the right word. People to like these tragedies actually happening, because folks will like see this, see some folks will see this and be like, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this has been going on. While other folks will look at it and be like, oh, well, that's just not true. That's just a movie. There's no way that could be going on, and etc. And then you see like these instances over and
Hmm.
over again. And I think that goes back to the point reanimate. It takes like the individual person, and it just comes down to that individual person doing that work, because you can present everything in the world to a person to tell them something is a fact, and they can tell you, simply put, it's not a fact if they don't believe it, and that's their own individual choice.
Hmm.
So
Mm. Who child? Y'all who child? It's a lot. I really want to say thank y'all. Did y'all have like any other comments in regards to these heavy topics?
No, self care. That's all I can say. Make sure you're taking care of yourself.
yeah, self-care, Black Lives Matter, Black mental health matters, therapy is dope. That's all I got.
Facts.
So okay, well, self care, therapy, Black Lives Matter. I'm all for that. Is there like any other advice that y'all would want to give to anybody? Just based on certain things that you guys have experienced.
Uh,
Let me think. Well, this is to the children, or if you know kids, um, if you work with kids or whatever, just really like love on your children, love on those babies, especially the black babies, the black and brown babies, because they truly need it. And just really take care of yourself. Like truly, like we throw around the word self care, but really take care of self, because it's important.
Anything additional for you,
I
Carl?
would just I echo that sentiment and just educate yourself. And what I mean by educate yourself, you don't
Hmm.
necessarily have to go to school or open a book. You can talk to people, and people can teach you life lessons that you will never be able to find inside of a book. So just educate yourself and strive to make yourself the best version of who you can become.
Hmm. My advice for this episode would be that strong does not mean you don't cry.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to say thank you guys for tuning into another episode of Ain't No Filter. And I had Briana and Carl, and
Yeah.
we out.
Peace.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
It's a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.
Mhm.
Bye.